And in this webinar session, we have two experts who will share their knowledge as well as their experience with us. And the presentation will be shortly started. But before, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Trihandoko. Mr. Trihandoko, are you there?
Hi, I'm here actually. Can you
Can you
guys hear me clearly?
Yes, clearly, yes. Okay. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing your availability and join our webinar together.
No
Uh,
problem. I'm happy.
yes, and guys, I would like to share a few information about our first speaker. So everyone, Mr. Trihandoko is a government scholar with a mathematics bachelor's degree and master's degree in adult education and community development from the University of Toronto in Canada. He is committed to help students to think outside the box and be successful in their learning journey inside and outside the classroom. As a senior trainer, he has been equipped with skills related to pedagogy and andragogy for both young and adult learners. Mr. Trihandoko, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Mutia. So, guys, before I'm going to my presentation, I'd love to see you if you want to turn on your camera actually, because it's going to be more intimate if you have this kind of conversation. All right. So, because the classroom will be pretty small anyway. So if you want to turn on your camera, that's going to be the best. Right, so I'm going to share my screen because I apparently can see you also when I share my screen. All right, guys, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to start. So I don't expect this gonna be like a lecturing style because I want it to be more interactive with you. So guys, all of the participants, I want your participation as well. If you have any questions, if you want to comment on anything, you want to give me some kind of feedback, I will be totally open to that, okay? So just a brief introduction, you can just read it yourself. I'm not comfortable actually reading it for me. But yeah, I will be talking about myself a little bit and then why adult learning and transformative learning and team test. I'm gonna have like a not really a task, it's just a part of a discussion that we are going to discuss so that you can how you call that experience it your firsthand like about how the adult learning being conducted in the classroom, right? And also, this is a bit more about me because I'm currently working as a country head of Indonesia for the Empire Code Singapore. Actually, it's a coding company, and then now I'm also a director of of program in Tibra Offices Edu. It's like sending students to go overseas with scholarship or self-funding and this kind of stuff. And the last one, I'm still in charge with becoming the head of the Presidium Council for Pendidikan Nasional. It's like Indonesian student union organization in Canada. So I'm still representing them in terms of the meetings with PPI Dunia sometimes. Right, so this is the first question to all of you. Again, I want it to be more interactive, okay, guys? So you're not just listening, like listening into a podcast. So this is gonna be more of like two ways discussion, right? So first of all, adult education and K to 12 education. Do you think it's gonna be the same or different? So that's my first question. Anyone wants to answer that? Like totally anyone. So it's gonna be yeah. Everyone has the right actually to speak. Come on, anyone wants to answer my question? Mm-hmm. Yes, Rizal. Rizal. Hey, Kak Putri, thank you for turning your camera on. It's wonderful actually. Kak Rizal, you want to say something? Kak Rizal, you can unmute yourself, or we can help you to unmute you. Right. So, do you think adult education and K to 12 education will be the same or different? Come on, Kak Rizal. You raised your hand previously, or anyone else? No?
Atifa
Atifa,
is
you raised your
actually raising her hand. Yeah.
You're ignoring
What,
me.
guys? Come on. All right, no, I don't actually. Yes, Katifa.
Yeah, it's different. like everyone is a learner. Like yeah, you can learn like whole life, not only like in school sitting. So that's what I think.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it is different actually. Because like kids, the way they learn are very different from the way adult learns actually. In terms of the classroom setting, in terms of the real life lesson, even like there is so much different from this one and this one actually. So we're going to discuss about it in deep actually after this. So yes. So if you want to know the deeper understanding about why the teaching adult or um, adult learning and also the kids learning are different, because when you are at school, for example, the methods are divided into two: the pedagogy and also andragogy. The pedagogy is actually focusing on more of the K to 12 students because their characteristics are so much different from the andragogy, from the students who are already adult. Because one point from here, the concept of the learners. For the adults, adult learners are independent and self-directed, and the kids usually depend on the educator for all learning. So here we're actually giving up our knowledge. So the possibility of the students will be exceeding our capacity is a bit small, actually, the chance, unless the students are learning by themselves outside the school environment itself. But for andragogy, it's different because the adults are more independent and they're self-directed. So that when, for example, we're talking about a marketing strategy, when you teach it to the students, I'm pretty sure their understanding will not exceed our understanding. But when you are teaching it to adults, their understanding might surprise you because they have a lot more actually to dig in related to this marketing strategy, for example, because they're more self-directed. But for the kids, we're kind of giving them whatever things that they need. And for the second one here, for example, the role of the learner experience. Adults build learning on prior experiences, and the experiences of children are not considered significant to be tapped as a learning resource. So, for example, when you are studying for a master's degree, and then you're being asked by the admission service that, do you have any prior working experience? Because that question relates to this one, because adults will rely on their experience to actually continue their learning journey. But the kids, their experience are not really significant to the learning journey itself, because it's like they're considered as an empty glass that we can fill up with knowledge. So that's the difference actually between this in terms of the role of the learner's experience. I know this one is actually a bit tough for the educator itself to teach adults, because sometimes based on their experience, it's gonna be hard to actually break it down, because they know that certain thing is right in their experience, but that it doesn't mean in general that that thing is gonna be right as well. So it's a bit tough actually to break it down into pieces, because sometimes they have that stubbornness inside the adult learners. But yeah, that's what we have to juggle with, right? And the next one is about the readiness to learn. Adults are drawn to learning where objectives and aims are clear and defines what's in it for me. Jadi, sorry. So it's like the thing that they always ask in terms of the learning journey itself when they're in the classroom: what's in it for me? If it is not so relevant, why should I learn this? If it is not beneficial for me, why should I learn this? So for example, when you are in a company and then your company has the HR team and they want to give a training about how to learn English, for example, and then the employees will be thinking, what's in it for me? Am I going to have an experience to study abroad, or am I gonna have an experience actually to have like a employee exchange between the other branches outside Indonesia? If not, why? Why should I learn English? So those questions are coming for the adult education actually. So that's why in terms of the adult learning, sometimes we not really modify, but we're trying to change the method so that the internal motivation is built in even before the training starts. So yeah, there's some methodologies that we can actually use in here. And the next one is about the kids. Evaluation and progress is measured the educator. So that means it's all in the educator's hand. about the learning journey, about the assessments, about the questions, about the discussion, about how to make the classroom more alive, for example. It's all in the hands of the educator. And as for today, guys, it's supposed to be adult learning experience, and you're all adult actually. So me, I'm trying to avoid treating you like children because you're all adults. So in that case, you're becoming in this position. You're here actually because of your internal motivation, as I can assume. But then some of you might be here because of your friends or because of the topic might give you some kind of interest to join the session or with whatever reasons actually, guys you're here as as an adult learner. So please try to position yourself as an adult learner as well, right? Again, if you have questions, just raise your hand and ask me questions, okay? I'm not comfortable in talking like all the time. I know I can, but it's gonna be like me talking to I don't know. So maybe guys, if you have any questions, just don't be shy, okay? All right, and the next part is about the orientation to learning. Adults desire to learn skills that will immediately apply and improve to the work they are doing. As an example, right here, actually, for example, my position is, oh, any question? Nope, all good, right. So my position right now is the director of program at Tibra Offices Edu. And then sometimes I will ask my team to actually learn about how to create product. But then if they're not using it immediately, they will say like, why should I learn this? Because I'm not gonna use it anyway. I was thinking that I think it is really important for them to learn about products. But then if they're not gonna use it right away, then they will be like having lack of internal motivation. But another case happening if somehow in the next week, for example, I will give my team like next week you guys will have a deadline to create a product. So today we are going to conduct a kind of session talking about how to create the best product ever. So it's gonna be applicable for my employees. So that's one of the things when you are trying to create something for adult learners, you have to think that way. Right. So if you're positioning yourself as an adult learner or as an adult educator, you will understand this deeper actually. The next one is motivation to learning. For the adults, as we mature, our motivation to learn becomes internal. So that's the most significant part actually, internal motivation. So with the adult learning experience, it's all coming from within you. It's not coming from the outside. It's not going to be coming from rewards and punishment. It's not gonna be coming from your friends' influence. Not gonna be coming from the teaching methods. It's not gonna be coming from uh, all kind of stuff. But it's gonna be from your internal needs that you need it. You need to learn this certain topic because you think it's gonna be necessary for your career or even for your life actually. So that's coming from internal. All right. Again, guys, it's so quiet. Come on, ask me questions. I love questions actually. If not, I will be like talking all the time without stopping, not even blinking. Come on, guys, ask me questions.
I do actually have a question.
Yes,
Yes.
Mateo.
As what you have explained before, adult builds on prior experience, and sometimes it makes them very stubborn. Actually, as a learner. So, as an adult educator, what is your tips and trick to tackle with this stubbornness and to finally invite adults to unlearn because our capacity of unlearning is also important.
Exactly. So that's what I always do in my learning center because Empire Cut and Tibra is actually learning centers. And one of them is actually for adults. And then what I always do in the classroom is slapping them in the face about the truth that they might not understand about it or they've been so denial about the truth about themselves.
How do you slap them
So
on the face in this
yes.
case?
So when we are teaching kids, when they're making mistakes, for example, we don't say that you make mistake. Not like that. So we reinforce the strengths for the kids. But for adults, when they make mistake, I will say like you're making mistake on this, in this particular part, so that they will bear in mind that they're just I will never make the same mistake ever again because I know that this is a total mistake. With that denial inside the adults, because they have the experience, they have this and that, it's gonna be hard for them to unlearn. But then once we put the truth in front of their face, they will understand that yes, they're wrong, and they've got to accept it. And once they are having that acceptance, and it's gonna be easier for them to actually expand their capacity.
So we should be more firm toward adults.
Exactly. And just say the truth to them, right? Not really like reinforcing. So, for example, there are a lot of scholarship hunters as my students, and then they say that it's okay to fail for 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. To me, it is not totally okay because once you fail like once or twice, you have to how you call that, contemplate about your past experience and try to analyze which one is actually your biggest mistakes. And once you are able to analyze that, and then you can move forward. You don't have to fail for so many times, as long as you know and you understand which part that is that are your mistakes, right? So most of the students will say that, oh, I think because of the timing, I think because of just my grammar part, I think because that's part of the denial. But then when we give them the fact, they will say like, okay, I have to accept this, that I am not capable enough to receive the scholarship, for example. And then they will be like, okay, they have to change the direction. If we're not doing that with adults, yeah, it's gonna be hard actually because they will be sticking with that stigma that they built themselves. All right. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love questions, guys. So question me, please. So adult learning principles, guys. When you are in the classroom and you're positioning yourself as an adult learner, for example, then you will have to have this. If you do not have this, your learning success will be less. So it's pretty important to understand when you are in a classroom, you know your motivation, why you finally joined that classroom, because it's more of going to be self-directed, right? The lecturer, the people teaching you are going to teach you, or sometimes they just facilitate the discussion. They don't really teach about the theories. They ask you to read the theories and ask your opinion, right? It's so much different from when you are in high school. In high school, you will be given the theories, and then you'll be asked to understand it in a certain way that it's not going to be diverse. But as the adult learners, you will be asked in actually to dig more about that theory, and then try to put up your perspectives as well into it, so that it's going to be more self-directed. So bear in mind when you are joining any classrooms, whether in whichever countries, it's gonna be all the same. You have to have the self direction actually to direct yourself. Right, and the second one is about problem oriented. So usually, or most of the time, adults taking a certain course because they have problem to solve. Right? If it is related to the career, so that means your master's degree or a PhD is going to be helping you in developing your career. So the problem is about career. If it is about the problem around you in your surrounding, for example, talking about the pollution problem, and then you're taking course because you want to solve that problem. So adult learning is always coming from problem-oriented background. So it's pretty important that you also understand what problem actually bringing you to learn certain things. Right. The next one is you have experience in it. If you're starting from zero, you're gonna be struggling too much actually in the classroom, and it's like, what do I do? What should I do? What should I read? What should I talk about? What perspectives should I put into? So it's gonna be really tough if you really don't have any experience in that. At least it's a wrong experience because you know that you are going to face something totally different from what you have imagined. That's the very least, or something relevant with why you take certain courses, right? And the next one, internally motivated. Again, this is like the most important part to me because it's gonna be like coming from within you. No one is gonna be encouraging you to please study, please read, please do this and that. No more as an adult learner. So it's supposed to be you have the internal motivation to actually I have to do this because I don't want to get C. that was my first reason actually when I was being so good at school when I was doing my master's because of that. Because the first time, like people they got good writing score in IELTS, for example. As if for me that time I got 7.5, and I was like being stubborn. I don't want to learn anymore about academic writing. So that was a big mistake. And then when I went to university, I start my writing. I was being like a snob, and then I tried to write. And next day, I only got C from my paper. So it shows that I'm lack of the capabilities to do the any academic writing actually. So after that, I know I understand the problem, and then I start taking free courses at my university about academic writing. I took it for 2 semesters. It was like kind of wow, it's a long journey actually, but then at the end I always most of the time I get A- from my courses. So yeah, it's a pretty good experience that slapped me in the face actually. But then once you know and you can analyze and you understand about your problem, then it's kind of easy to find the solution. The hard thing is if you're not really aware about your own problems, it's going to be hard to find the solution. Right, and the next one is ready to learn, of course. All right. Any question? Well, come on, guys. Question me. I will be really happy actually to have questions from you. No? Oh, Kak Trilani Putri. I love questions. Yes,
Yeah.
ask me questions.
Okay. I just want to ask about, when our from senior high school they choose a major for undergraduate
Yep.
programs, but we know about they talk about I choose the wrong program, and then they became so lazy to go to campus and then do their thesis. So because maybe they don't have any experience, or maybe they lack of
True.
research for the searching their program. So, or maybe external stimulation from like family and etc. So what do you think
True.
about how to um, how to overcome or how to deal with, you know so basically they don't have internal motivation,
Mhm.
and surely they don't ready to learn, and they don't I think so they basically lack of this principle. So what do you think about what they're experiencing, so they should can overcome with it?
All right. Thank you so much for the question. Um it's relatable actually, because I know everyone here, including me, have that kind of experience in our life. Like you're choosing something and then actually you're not into it in the middle of the process. So it happens to our students as well. Undergrad students, usually they're thinking they want to take certain major because of the career in the future. And then once they enter the university journey, they think like it's really not me. But then they have to understand about the motivation again. So while you're choosing this major, because you want to have the expansion of your career in the future, so be stick with it. And then they have to deal with that, and they have to juggle with whatever things that they have chosen, because it's part of the consequences with their options actually. But then in the classroom, um, I don't know. It's gonna be tough actually for the adult educator as well, to kind of tackle down this problem. Usually, you will be trying to boost up their interest in learning with you by doing some kind of different teaching methods in the classroom. As for the educator, but as for the learner, what you have to do is to find again something within you that you think it's gonna be. Um, Strengthening the way you have an interest in certain courses. If you couldn't find it, if you are as a learner and then you couldn't find anything within you, try to find external motivation. But then it's going to be your responsibility because you are considered as adult learner. If you're still in high school, then the one who are responsible for the actions going to be your parents and your counselors and your teachers. But then once you enter university journey, it's going to be all on you. So once you're making mistake in that, there is no turning back. But then you can still go forward. Try to do your best. Even though you don't like it, I'm pretty sure you can still get A minus from it. Because actually, in an actual manner, study doesn't require any interest. Even when you are smart at something and then you are doing something that you don't really know. For example, I'm good at math, but then I really want to learn English. Oh, that's internal motivation. So I'm really good at math, but then my company wanted me to learn about social media. So I was like being forced to step outside of my comfort zone. But then it doesn't require me to have an internal motivation actually to take the course about social media, because to me I'm capable enough to actually learn about the journey. So if you're, how you call that, if you're being placed into your undergrad journey, but then you don't really have any internal motivation in it, so deal with it with the other ways, not really coming or not really enhancing this part, but then you can enhance the other parts as well. You try to find the problem why you finally take that course. You try to be self-directed in the classroom, and you try to connect your experience. Even the least experience is when you have like wrong experience to be in, so it's still part of your experience, and then you get yourself ready to learn even though you don't have this one. I know the learning journey will not be like a straight A, but then yeah, at least you can still tackle it down, right? So two ways, coming from the educator and coming from the learner. Educator will try to enhance the learning process, try to use different methods to teach, try to put more attention to these certain learners. But then for the individual, for the learner itself, they have to build up the reasons why, because it's important for their journey. It's relevant to me actually. When I was taking adult education, even in Canada, one course that I kind of hate at the beginning was adult education course, because there are a lot of theories inside it, and oh god, it's so hard. Even the process to actually finish that course is really tough. So I was feeling like I actually learned at the same time. I learned about adult education and I practice it inside the classroom to myself, because I'm going to talk about the transformative learning later, and that's part of it. Part of the adult education is actually, or adult learning journey is actually the transformative learner, because we want to transform from you don't really like the course, and then until you finally are becoming comfortable with the course, at least comfortable, not really like putting so much interest on it, but becoming comfortable with the course is enough. Right? Any other questions so far? Thank you for the question, Katrilani.
Well, I have a further question.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so uh, you said that they have to bear with it and find the extra motivation. So, do you think that their decision to stop is because they found their problem and ready to like
To change the direction.
yeah.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is a good thing too.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because I think that's when you start learn in university is like a transition from children as a children learner and to the adult learning. So
exactly.
okay, so
Yes, it
yeah.
is true actually. So if finally they want to quit, so it's part of the decision. It's part of the learning process itself, and it's totally okay actually. Again, what you have to say to them is every course of action will have their consequences. So by taking that major with the thought that it's going to be good for the career journey, it has the consequences. The consequences are that you might not be able to juggle with the courses. And then once he or she stops from the school and then change direction, that course of action will have the consequences as well. So again, as an adult learner, they have to responsible with their learning journey,
Okay,
right?
yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I love the question. Any other questions? And it's very, um, yeah, critical. Any other questions, guys?
actually want to assure my comprehension. So this
Yes.
from all these principles, it's not like obligatory. Like, oh, if we cannot rely on our motivation, we can rely on our experience. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, actually, the whole thing here will make up a really good adult learning journey. But if you don't have the self-directed, but you have the problem to solve and you have the experience, you have internal motivation, you're ready to learn, it's still okay, right? But then the most outcome will be coming if you have all of this. It's going to be creating the principles of being an adult learner, right? Thank you for the question. Again, guys, I love questions. Give me more. So the next one, the challenges in adult learning. Sometimes, even though they have the internal motivation, their lack of confidence in learning capacity, they think that they cannot learn this, they cannot learn that, they cannot really do this, they cannot really do that. So it's part of the challenges. Sometimes they're being so shy, even though they know that they're internally interesting in certain topics, but since they have lack of confidence, it's going to be actually putting them back or backwards because of it. So the thing is, you have to be confident because you already chose to learn a certain thing. And fear of looking weak in the group, this is one of the process of it as well. As becoming an adult learner is going to be like having the peer pressure as well, because it's like a competition in the classroom. But be focused on yourself. You want to develop you, not develop your learning community inside it. So you don't have to be the most outstanding student in the classroom. As long as you can tackle down your own problems, and that's going to be okay. As long as you can, yeah, find the solution for whatever things that you're facing, then it's going to be okay. You don't have to think about what others think of your opinion, right? If it is your question, then shout it out. It's okay. And sometimes because it's too late for you to shout your questions, for example, the questions are taken by someone else, and then you say like, that was my question. See, so actually you have something different that you can add the value from the classroom and want to avoid making mistakes. I have a lot of students who don't really want to make mistakes and they don't want to try because of it. Oh, it's a big mistake actually. You don't want to make mistake, it's a big mistake. So try, it's okay because adults usually learn from their mistakes and they will not repeat the same mistakes over and over. Not like kids. Sometimes kids are, even though they know it's their mistake, but then still sometimes if they don't have kind of a really strong how you call that, like turning point, it's gonna be hard for them to actually bearing in their mind that they don't want to repeat the same mistakes over and over. But for adults, you totally understand about your mistakes actually. So when in the classroom, then you make mistakes, it's totally okay. Because mistakes are actually part of your learning journey as an adult. Totally fine. Reduce speed of learning, but more in depth. So that's one of the things actually in terms of the adult learning. Sometimes you are getting used to learn fast, but only the surface. But in adult learning process, it's going to be more in depth. So it's forcing you to actually slowing down a little bit to dig more information about what you're currently dealing with. And adult, again, more resistant to change. A stubbornness, and then you're having prior knowledge, prior experience that you think everything you've been through is the most or the best things ever, and like other people cannot judge from your experience, and you don't want to learn anymore. So that's the thing that will forbid you to actually expand your capability. Even though, for example, you are a really decent marketer, for example, social media marketer, and then you think that adding more credibility to learn about social media will be good for your career. But then in the classroom, if you're trying to open up yourself, you can still always learn, even though the material might be, you might have learned it previously, but then as the time goes by, you can still learn something in the classroom. It's like undeniable that whenever you are in the classroom, you can still learn something, even though it's like a repetitive material, even. Right? Highly conservative, like again, using your prior knowledge, your prior experience to do not really want to change anything. difficulty accepting views of others, again, stubbornness and this kind of stuff. What inter-individual differences, and it's going to be making you hard to actually, oh, that's based on your experience. So to me, it's not going to be applicable. But then if you take a step back and then try to accept other people's opinion, it might be giving you like a richer perspectives that someday you might also find people who also have the same perspective. So yeah, it's actually adding up your value, right? And gonna go to the next part. So this is my question to all of you. Should learning happen in the classroom setting only? Why? And provide me an example. Because we don't talk anything about the classroom, right? Adult learning journey has no correlation with the classroom setting. So this is my question to you. Sorry guys, there is something happening. Can you hear the noise outside? You hear, no? Or is it still clear? Because it's pretty loud actually. You hear the noise?
No, I think mine is fine
Oh,
here.
good. All right, so I will just be speaking right here. So this is my question to all of you. Again, I want it to be more of like interactive. So all of you guys, you're having the same rights actually to answer this question. So learning happen in the classroom setting only. Why? And provide me an example. Something that you might learn only in the classroom and you don't think that you learn anywhere else, or if you have different opinion, you can actually learn something from outside the classroom, and give me the example of that. Come on guys, before I continue to the next section. Come on, come on, come on. I really want to hear your voice, you know. Come on guys, adult learners. I start calling you that. Adult learners, come on, adult learners. Hey, go on, go on, go on. No, it's a question. It's not open-ended. So there's no wrong and right answers. It's based on your perspective. You will not make any mistake in here. Come on, come on. Raise your hand, guys. Come on. No, not at all. I'm going to count until 10.
I think I will answer the question.
Yes, please. Who's speaking?
Um,
Tanya.
yeah,
Yes,
I,
come on.
I think the learning it's not only happen in the classroom as far as I experienced because since I am working on an elementary school with everyone's new in my surrounding and at first I didn't know how to teach children because I because I was teaching for the vocational high school students and
Mhm.
it's a new thing for me but as time goes by I think I can adapt with the new situation and I can handle the children as well so I think it's a new horizon for me and also
Mhm.
new experience for me so I think learning can be through learning by doing I guess.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And I do totally agree with Catania actually. So it's not only happening in the classroom, and sometimes in different setting. You know, guys, I can bring up a case in Indonesia actually. If you know Blora, in Blora they don't have schools. They don't have government setting. So in that place, they learn from their parents. They learn from their surroundings. They learn through practicing. So nothing related to school or nothing related to the formal school, but they still learn the way they live their life, and it doesn't mean they don't learn. So learning is not always about the classroom setting. It's not always about the formal education. As we are gonna be adult learners, the purpose of this session is gonna be knocking you actually that you can learn anywhere. Even when currently you are not a student in certain universities, you can still learn. You can still have that learning process through all the things, through your experience, through books, through watching, even through analyzing events happening around you. It's part of the learning journey also. So it's not always about classroom setting. It's not always about formal education. Yes, formal education is just one of the ways of the learning actually. Right. Anyone else wants to give their opinion? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm going to count until 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No? Okay. So I'm going to continue. All right. Hey, what is happening? How can I close the annotate? Oops.
Can you continue?
Oops. Sorry, guys. So something coming up on my screen, actually, someone asking to annotate, and then I accept that. And then my cursor was gone. So I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the arrow. So when I clicked to somewhere, it just muted me. And then yeah, those things happen. Sorry. Right. So the next part is this is the message. So never stop learning. Whichever condition, whichever situation, never stop learning. This is gonna be like main point of adult learning process actually. No question, I guess. I'm going to continue. So the next one is about transformative learning. So there are a lot of theories in adult learning experience, but then this is one of them. And I think I experienced this and then I applied it through my learning journey when I was taking my master's. Right? So in childhood, learning is formative, derived from formal sources of authority and socialization. In adulthood, learning is transformative, as adults are more capable of seeing distortions in their own beliefs, feelings, and attitudes. Right, so there are transformations happening throughout our life once you are entering the adult phase, right? Sometimes you believe that this is true when you were in high school, but then when you meet your friends in university, oh, that's not true. And then you meet your friends in community, oh, that's not true again. So there are a lot of variables that you don't really know. So that's kind of transformative theory. We'll be talking about it. But inside this theory, there are a lot of things, not only just changing by the time, it's actually having a lot of process inside. So the first one, it's starting coming from disorienting dilemma. You start asking questions about what you believe as true or about something that you've been saying to yourself that it is the right thing. And then once you are starting asking questions about this, and then it's gonna be coming for self-examination. Is it because of this? Is it because of that? Is it because of all kind of stuff? You try to name about your examination toward that problem that you face. And then what you have to do next is about your critical assessment. Whether everything that you just self-examine correct or not correct. You try to take it one by one and then try to do self-critical assessment, and then you will know which one is actually becoming the real problem from your case. And then try to recognize those problems. Once you recognize the problem, it's going to be easy to find the solution. And then it comes to exploration of the solutions. You might have 5 options for the solutions, but then you have to pick, for example, which are the 3 best solutions that you can get from the problem. And then after that, you're planning about the course of action that you need to take based on the exploration coming from here. And then the learn and unlearn is coming in this part, acquisition of knowledge and skills. There is a shift between the knowledge. There is the self-concept shift also that you have to face in this stage. And then after that, you're trying out the new roles. You're trying something new from your problem. And then build up the competence and self-confidence with whatever things that you tried. And it comes to reintegration and try to think about the dilemma that you previously had, and then it is transforming into something different. And if it is transforming, then you actually get just went through the transformative learning process. But this one is not gonna be useful for you for simple cases. Like for example, you have a dilemma about what you want to have for your lunch, whether you want to take I don't know, chicken or you want to take beef, for example, and then you start a self-examination from it, and then you have critical assessment. It's gonna be tiring. It only happens for something crucial for your life. If it is really like affecting your belief, not really like your daily routines, then you can do this step for your transformative learning. And usually inside the transformative learning, there will be overwhelmed situation. So overwhelmed situation will be starting from this part actually. Once you are getting overwhelmed in learning something, then you will start asking questions to yourself. There will be dilemma, and then you do self-examination, and then critical assessment, and then actions, and you transform. So what I told you previously that it was relatable that I was in my classroom in adult education, and I found out that adult education classroom is not as fun as I thought. It was very kind of boring and a lot of theories inside, and like the practices are so hard to be implemented. And then I was facing myself in a overwhelmed situation, and I start having dilemma whether I should continue the course or not. But that's compulsory. I mean, that course has to be taken by me. If not, I will not be able to graduate from my university. So I don't have any options. But then I faced this problem that I was overwhelmed in the classroom. Should I retake the class in the next semester? So that's kind of solution. But then I try to learn about what is it actually that causing me to think this way. And I do some kind of self examination, and I find some problems related to that. First, actually, it had some correlation with my activities outside school, and also it has some correlation with the readings, the language of the readings, and it had some correlation with my mood could probably be one of the reasons in here. So I did self-examination and then try to also do critical assessment on that. And then I recognize the problem and I find the solution. But then at the end of the day, I found that the classroom was really, really good in case that I can implement my problem to my situation. And then finally, I got A actually from the classroom. As the start, I was getting like, I don't know, like I don't know where I was at that time. So I was like really like hanging in the air. But then at the end of the classroom, I understand the concepts of the adult education because I pushed myself through. And then I went through this process. And then when the classroom was talking about transformative learning, it's sticking in my head that this is what I've been through, the transformative learning process. Right? Any questions so far?
Question?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, can you please explain more about the term reintegration in the end of the chart? I mean, I want to know if it is actually a new truth accepted by adults after the transformative learning. Is it
Yes.
correct?
Yes, exactly. So your life is built up based on your experience, based on your self-concept. But then at the end of the day, you are questioning about your experience. You're questioning about your self-concept. You're questioning about your belief. You're questioning about a problem. But then you need to focus on that problem and try to solve it. So after you've been through all of this, and then you reintegrate with your life again, whether it's still in line with your life. Because sometimes that truth will be affecting other facts also, other beliefs also, so that you reintegrate it. You acquire that as something new and something true at that time, and you bring it up to yourself, and then you also reflect back to your experience and everything that you've been through, and then you accept that as your new truth, and then you live with it.
Thank you very much. Very clear.
Thank you for the question too. Because I've been mentioning about learn and unlearn. This is like a very uncritical and unpractical question also. So when we are talking about learn and unlearn, we know that coffee is coming from beans. That's a part of it. But when you try to Google coffee, you try to Google beans, actually beans are in a form of like this. And coffee is not coming from beans, it's coming from seeds. So you know that this thing is very simple to be accepted, but then with your belief, with your critical examination of yourself, and those things will be actually harder to accept because the fact is not just one or two sentences. It could be the whole new truth that you have to accept. So it's bigger. But this is like a small example of how you learn and unlearn. All right. Any questions so far? No questions? All right. I'm going to continue. Transformative learning theory in action. So it transforms you into someone else through different characters. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good to be applied in any different situation actually. Right? Any questions again? No? I'm still waiting actually from your questions, guys, if you have any questions. Because I do love questions. I will count until three. One, two, three. Okay, no questions. Right. So I'm going to continue then. In this session, I want to give you challenge actually. But yeah, I will still give you challenge anyway. So in this case, I will be giving you a certain condition. All of you, yeah. I will give you all of you a certain condition. If possible, we'll be working in groups because it's impossible. So we're gonna just I'm going to be the facilitator in this case, okay? And please try to comprehend the case clearly, so you have a better idea in solving it. And anyone can participate. All right. So this is the case. We're going to talk about teamwork. Me in the classroom, I will ask you to learn about teamwork, but then I have another methodology to actually implement teamwork in the learning process. Right. In my belief, there is no I in team. So that means everything that we do inside the teamwork is supposed to be considering every possibilities, best possibilities for all of the team members. Right? It's not about ourselves. But then this is the case for you. So the get lost challenge. The first thing is you don't know how, but somehow all of you here uh, wake up, and then you are inside a gas balloon flying in the middle of a sea. We don't really know what sea is that. And then it's a very sunny, warm day, and you open your eyes and see beautiful view from 6 kilometers is too high. I think it's gonna be like 1 kilometer above the sea level, right? And then you see some shark fins underneath your balloon. You know that, yeah, the shark is actually circling around your balloon, waiting for you to drop. And not so far from your location, around 20 kilometers, you see there is a big green island that doesn't seem inhabitable. So that island, you can see that it's there, and you are all of you inside the gas balloon. All of a sudden, a big crowd of watchdogs come toward you and hit the top part of the balloon. And after 5 minutes, you realize that the gas is leaking and your balloon is flying lower. And if you don't do anything, the balloon will hit the sea within 15 minutes. If you don't do anything, okay? So the thing is, according to your calculation, you will need 30 minutes to reach close enough to the island and safe enough from the sharks. So that balloon will not be in the island, but it's safe enough. Okay? And it is possible to survive if and only if you drop all stuff inside your balloon and keep only one tool from this list. Which tool will you keep? Only one of 16 items that we have. So anyone can participate, anyone can say your opinion which item that you are going to save from the balloon. Right? We can only pick one item. Not every one person pick one item, but the whole team can only keep one item. But at first, I will be asking you individually. Anyone wants to give the opinion? Yes, Kak Fania.
I think I will choose canned food as my tool to
Canned food as your item. Why? Guys, can you help me to unmute Kak Daniel Da Costa?
because
Two minutes, sorry.
prefer to get away with me because I need to survive on that island, on that
All right.
situation. If we have food, I think we can have some energy to survive and we can think clearly.
Hmm.
So yeah, can food.
Survive. You have energy to think clearly. Really good. Thank you, Katania. So anyone else wants to say your opinion about what item you really want to keep among these 16 items? Maybe you want to take the tea set, for example. You just want to enjoy the rest of your life drinking tea. That's okay. It's part of your purpose as long as you know why you picked that item. Okay? Come on.
Well, I will choose an ox, number 2,
Us, right.
because
Mhm.
I think it is the tool that is able to create a wood for making a fire that supposed to replace a box of matches and um, and flashlight. I mean, like from one tool we can get food by cutting the trees and etc. I think so, and yeah, I think the tools it is the good tool for for survival.
All right. So I can put here like it can substitute other tools. Right. Any other opinions, guys? I'm very open to your opinion. For example, you wanna keep DSLR camera because you want to record the last moment, and then maybe someday people can find the camera. So it's totally up to you. Okay. All right. Others, come on. Give me your opinion about which item that you really want to keep. Come on, guys. Mm-hmm. Come on, come on. I'm still waiting. Maybe Kak Mutia, you have your opinion too?
Uh, as my survival canvas is not really good, so I think I would choose the last one, laptop. We don't talk about the internet before, so probably there is still internet connection there on the island. So I just want to use my
Probably.
laptop to communicate, uh, to to make signal to inform everyone that I'm alone on the island, that I need help. I don't think I will survive even if there is cat food or eggs.
Right. So you try to analyze yourself that you understand that your survival skill is not that efficient in terms of this case. So you try to use a laptop. Good. A good option. Really good. So guys, any other opinions? I'm very open to
I
any. Yes, please.
uh I will take with me water purifications because
Good.
water is everything. Like if I have no food, I will just drink water.
Water purification.
Take
Really good
shower.
because you know
Yeah.
that it's actually in the middle of the sea, right?
I'll be
So
clean and hydrate it at least.
really good. So I can say that it's gonna be clean and hydrate. Cool. Any other opinions, guys? We're still open to other opinions actually. Come on. Mm-hmm. Come on, come on, come on. So we have four so far: the canned food, axe, water purification, and also laptop. I know you all have a purpose why you're picking up these items, right? Others? I'm still waiting. I will be counting to five maybe if you don't have any other opinions, guys. One, two, three, four, five. Okay. I'm gonna close the session for this part. So now we have four options. Option number one is canned food. Option number two is axe. Option number three is water purification, and the last one is laptop. So now, all of you guys, I actually want you to agree with four of this. We only need to keep one from these four lists because others are eliminated. So I'm going to ask the previous people who already set out their ideas about whether they are going to keep their option or they want to move to someone else's. All right, so the one who chose canned food, are you going to still choose canned food or you want to move to the other items? Mm-hmm.
I think I still choose my choice.
Nice, cool, thank you. So the next person, the one who chose arts, are you going to stick with your choice or you want to move to someone else's?
Well, actually, it's tempted to go to water purification, but yeah, but I think I still okay. I'm gonna stick with my
You're going to stick with arts, okay.
yeah.
So now,
Hope for
what are,
hope for coconut available there.
yeah, it's possible too, right? So the island is green, by the way. So now, water purification. Are you going to stick with your option or you want to move to someone else's?
Let's stick with this. I have been carefully picked this one.
All right. Thank you. So laptop.
Also, I will stick to my option.
Okay. So guys, so every single course of action will have its consequences. That's what we talk about, right? So now you have four options and we're all in team. So that means you're gonna die. Because the thing is, you're going to survive if and only if you only keep one option. So if you stick with your option only, we're gonna die. All right. So I'm going to repeat the momento again to ask you another question, like whether you want to stick with your option or you want to move to someone else's. Because it's gonna be it's gonna be significant for your survival in this case, yeah. Because you only have like 15 minutes to discuss actually, but then we're running out of time. So now we still have four options and we're gonna die. We only need to have one option only. Okay, so now can fit. You have to move. Nggak bisa. Sorry, cannot. So I can't force your opinion. So now can put whether you want to stay with your choice or you want to move to someone else's.
If if I stick to my option in canned food and I'm gonna die, I will move to water purification, I guess,
All
because
right.
because
So we
human will
eliminated.
survive with water for more than 2 weeks, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we're going to move to Axe. What about you?
Yeah. Me as well. I want to have water purification.
Nice. So you move to this point again,
Good
and
marketing, I guess.
yeah,
Selling.
now we have laptop and water purification. Laptop, what about you?
Now I think a box of matches will be a good choice.
Mhm.
Probably, I don't know, I can use it to cook something from the sea. Not quite sure though what the sea offers.
Right, this one, right? All right, so you want to move to a box of matches. Okay, now we still have two options, a box of matches or a water purification. So I'm gonna ask the three people on water purification whether you want to move to a box of matches. Guys, in the water purification side, you want to move to a box of matches?
No, I
Hmm?
think no.
Box of matches?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's like the to create fire, right? Because
No. Yeah.
in
I think
the
I can use stone.
you can use stone. Do you know how to?
Just
This
do
is
it until you
really
get
tough.
fire.
In the movie, it looks easy, but then when you try to create it yourself, oh,
But when you are clean and hydrated, you have energy to do it with a stone.
right.
Yeah.
Good. So you want to stick with water purification. Good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a box of matches again. Are you going to choose water purification or stay with your option?
With my option.
Oh no, we're gonna die. We only need one item from all. So we still have two items. So we're gonna die in this stage. From water purification again. Do you want to move, guys? Three of you?
I think I'll just stick with my option.
All right, water purification. So now a box of matches. Do you want to move to water purification to save the day?
Yes, we can just apply democracy here. 3 people, 3% chose water purification. So, okay, I will change to water purification.
All right, thank you. So we survive because of that. So now we have the water purification, and we have to drop all of the other items here. Right. So I just want to ask you a question about what do you feel when you have this kind of activities in the classroom when we are talking about teamwork? What can you correlate between the activity and teamwork? Anyone wants to say anything? Come on.
I think it's about how to consider the side effect from something. Like we have to see a problem from different point of view, I guess,
Yeah,
and we need to discuss it if we are in a
exactly.
team.
So we know that there is always different points of view,
Yeah.
right? Uh, it's gonna be happening in different circumstances, including in the classroom or outside the classroom. In your work field, for example, it's gonna be happening also that people will have different points of view. Even though you think that their point of view it doesn't make any sense, for example, but still you have to deal with it and how to object their options, for example, how to strengthen your perspective also. You have to have your kind of way to actually express it, right? Anyone wants to say anything again about this activity and how you correlate it with teamwork? This activity and the correlation with teamwork. Come on.
Sometimes we need to sacrifice something to survive.
Sacrifice should be made. Exactly. That's
We
important
cannot take
actually.
everything with us.
That's important, even for the learning journey. Even if you want to get a scholarship, for example, even when you want to be accepted in a Ivy League schools, and then you still have to sacrifice your time, your effort, your energy, your those kind of fun stuff that you think you might experience, but then you have to sacrifice it to get a better option for your life. Actually, really good sacrifice, and it's for the betterment of the team, and that's good. So now, others, do you have any opinion related to this case, and also the way you correlate it with teamwork? Because today we're actually going to learn about teamwork. Others, come on, your opinion. I love hearing your opinions, by the way, so don't worry. There is no right and wrong. Come on. I keep talking because there is the noise outside me. Uh, you can hear, right? But when I'm talking, I think the noise will be like reduced. But then when I stop talking, the noise will be, yeah, kind of annoying. All right. Anyone wants to say anything about it? But the practice that we just had and the correlation between this and the teamwork. Come on, again. I love your opinion. I love hearing perspectives from you.
Can I answer?
Yes, please, Maria.
I think it's kind of the same answer with Kak Tifa, but I think this makes us know what is our priority.
Really good.
Besides that, we have our own priority, but in teamwork, we have to, uh, take a side of it and take one of the most important priority. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. Because we don't talk about I, we talk about we talk about us. Is water purification good for us? Is the a box of matches going to be good for us? Even though I don't have the survival skill as the others, is it good for me or for us? So we also have to think, and we also have to, yeah, analyze that problem as well related to it. And priority is really important. Thank you, Maria. Any other opinions on this? Guys, come on. Go on. No? I'm going to count until 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No? All right. So one thing that we're missing from this activity actually, guys, you know, when you're working in team, when you are doing group project, for example, there is always goal or goals in this case. So if you're getting lost in an island, for example, the goal is, are you going to stay survive in the island, or you want to try to find the way to get out from the island? So that's part of the goal. And then once you have the goal, then you can narrow down the course of actions that you're going to take to actually execute the goals. So it's pretty important. It's what we're missing so far, because we actually need that importantly. So for example, if you want to stay in the island, so of course you want to choose water purification because you want to stay survive in the island for as long as possible, right? But if you're thinking about going back, I might suggest you to go with us actually, because it can cut down trees and then it can create boat, and it can create anything that can be used as your boat to go out from the island, because you want to survive, you want to go back to your own life, because everybody has their own lives. And yeah, I think it's pretty important to also emphasize on the goal, which goals that you're going to achieve actually. Even with the bug spray, no, I'm not sure about bug spray, so I'm going to talk about something else. Um, yeah, related to goals, right? Some people might say that large knife is also a good thing for you to both survive in the island and also to go out from the island. Because by having the large knife, you can anticipate a lot of things, including snakes, including the wild animals like tiger or any other animals in that island. So you can anticipate using the large knife. Because stone, because wood is not going to be replacing the function of large knife or axe, right? But purification is going to be making us stay alive actually and survive in the island too. All right, no question so far? No question? Or are there any questions? It's happy to be here actually to meet you, all of you guys. Any questions again? No, not at all. What? I actually love questions, guys. Come on. Ask me, ask me. I really do. I do love questions. Why not? So this is like part of how we implement the adult education in the classroom. We try to give a case, and then it's going to be open-ended. People can freely have their own opinion. People will be involved because they shout out their ideas, and then they want to be heard also. And then, yeah, this kind of things actually. So this was the method that I used when I had a teaching practice in my university. So I tried to use this challenge actually. It's being applied in the classroom. So I know the reaction from the lecturer. I know the reaction from the other students also. Yeah, so it's kind of nice actually to have them discuss about certain topic, but then at the end I have to teach them about how to uh, the teamwork theories happening in our surroundings. So yeah, that's the case. Any question again? No, no. All
I
right.
have
If
a question.
yes, please. I'm happy
Uh,
to receive your
okay.
questions.
You mentioned about the adult challenge in
Yep.
learning, such as
Yep.
resistant to change, which is actually I experience it. Well, uh, if uh, if I may tell my story, um, so like yeah, a few years ago, there is a transition in my company, so I should I replace the previous my supervisor, and
Mhm.
we both have different style in leading or in managing, and there is one staff that in my first meeting, and he said that, okay, please don't change anything, please don't change anything. So it actually uh, like hurt me and make me less motivated in managing teams eventually. So what do you think that, how to, instead of ourselves experiencing the challenges in adult learning, what do you think about deal with people with these challenges?
All right, thank you for the stories and for the question too. So try to build up the trust also. Adult learners, to build up their internal motivation, they also need to trust us that we know better than them. If they think we don't know better, we don't know any better than them, so that means they will be questioning, why should I learn this? Why should I be in your team? Why should you change that? Because I know that you know better than me. So that trust should be earned. But if I got the same experience as yours, I will say that this is my responsibility to supervise you. And if I really want there to have changes in the company, I will do it. It's not because of you, because I think it's the best thing to do. So try to be firm with the adult learners, because sometimes because of the experience again, because of the stubbornness, they think that they are the best. They think that when we come in, then we do not add up any value for the company or for the team. So it's pretty important to make sure that they trust us to add up the value. So what I am suggesting is try to prove yourself to them and try to be firm, because I know changes is not gonna be happening in like one night. So it takes time. Then yeah, they have to bear in mind that there will be changes for the team. Because I also experienced this kind of things actually when I was in Indonesia also, and then I taught the school, and in that school I have to teach the teachers as well. Teachers are very resistant to learn English. But then I give them reasons, and then I show them my learning process, and then they trust me to actually lead them or to actually train them to learn better. So from your points, from your stories, I think the trust, there's a lack of trust in you. So try to gain that one first. Is that answering the question?
Yeah, because actually I'm afraid of
I
making a
know.
conflict, I think. So
That's okay. Conflict is part of the learning process as well. That's fine. Yeah, I know it's not comfortable for us to have
yeah,
conflict, but then it's part of the learning process for us and for them. Even like the way we handle conflict calmly, for example, the way we handle conflict with smile, and the way we juggle with the criticisms from the others, and then how we actually anticipate that. It's part of the learning process, so that's okay. Have conflicts, more conflicts.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I noted that. Thank
Yes,
you.
very welcome. Any other questions, guys? I'm here for you. I love questions. Come on, come on. No, no other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, I think I will give the stage and microphone back to Kak Mutia. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trihandoko, for the answer and all the explanation, who is so very comprehensive. And again, thank you for coming and sharing in our webinar. And now we will have a photo session before you leave. So we invite all the participants to open the camera, and our team will take a few screenshots, okay? We are inviting you to open your camera, please.
Come on,
It can take a
guys.
few minutes sometimes.
You see, like when you're giving a talk and then you only see profile picture or just names, you're wondering like, am I really talking to anybody here? So it's like kind of happiness to see your face. See, thank you. Thank you, Shida. Thank you, Pano. Come on, guys.
Okay, everyone, please open your camera so that we can have a full
True.
picture of the participant today. You can see Jihan. Okay, we can probably take picture now. Latifah, are you ready? Okay, I will count down, guys. 3, 2, 1. Say cheese. Okay, and for the second slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, how many slides are there? I think only 2 slides.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much again. Thanks, Katri Handoko, and everyone. We will now have a little break before the presentation of our second speaker. And so please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And we will see you in a few minutes.
Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Kadoki. Bye.
ces communautés et ces personnes, en réalité, étaient pionnières de beaucoup de choses qui nous paraissent basiques aujourd'hui. Et je pense que c'est ça qui résonne dans Always Been.
I found a love for me. Darling, just dive right in. Follow my lead. Well, I found a girl, beautiful and sweet. Well, I never knew you were the someone waiting for me. 'Cause we were just kids when we fell in love, not knowing what it was. I will not give you up this time. Darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own, and in your eyes you're holding mine. Baby, I'm dancing in the dark with you between my arms, barefoot on the grass, listening to our favorite song. When you said you looked a mess, I whispered underneath my breath, but you heard it. Darling, you look perfect tonight. Well, I found a woman stronger than anyone I know. She shares my dreams. I hope that someday I'll share her home. Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Shoes on, get up in the morning, cup of milk, let's rock and roll. Kick out, kick the drum, rolling on like a rolling stone. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Ding dong, call me on my phone, nice tea and I'll get my ping pong. This is dead heavy, can't hear the bass, boom, I'm ready. Life is sweet as honey, yeah, this beach treated like money. This go all alone, I'm into that, I'm good to go, I'm down, you know I glow up. Hey, so let's go. 'Cause I'm in the stars tonight, so watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Hey, shining through the city with a little funky sound. So I'ma light it up like dynamite. Whoa, bring a friend, join the crowd, whoever wanna come along. Word up, talk, just move right up the wall. Tonight, sky's the line, so dance to the break of dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, I got the medicine, so you should keep your eyes on the ball. This is getting heavy, can you hear the bass? Boom, I'm ready. Life is sweet as honey, yeah, this bitch chain like money. And this girl all alone, I'm into that, I'm good to go, I'm down, you know I'm glow. And let's go. 'Cause I'm in the stars tonight, so watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Hey, shining through the city with a little fucking soul. So I'ma light it up like dynamite. Whoa, na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Life is dynamite. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Life is dynamite. Shining through the city with a little fucking soul. So I'ma light it up like dynamite. Whoa, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Light it up like dynamite. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. 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 Light it up like dynamite. 'Cause I'm in the stars tonight, so watch me bring the fire, set the night alight. Shining through the city with a little fucking soul. So light it up like dynamite. This is 불타오르네.
Can we play Avenged Sevenfold or something else?
When I wake up in my room, 난 뭣도 없지, 뭣도 없지. 해가 지고 난 후, 비틀대면 걷지. 난 나의 심장이여 취했어, 취했어. 막역해 기랬어, 기랬어. 난 맛이 같지, 미친놈 같지. 다 엉망진창, living like this. 이대로 살아, 자꾸 네 거야. 하시지 좀 말아, 언제도 괜찮아. Everybody say la 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 la, say la 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 la. Switch it up, switch it up, burn it up. 불타오르네. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. Burn it up, burn it up. 전부 다 태울 것 같지. Turn it up, turn it up. 새벽이 다갈 때까지. 그냥 살아도 돼. 우린 적이네. 그만하는 널 원수적일래. 수적거려 난 사람인데. So what? 이대로 살아. 네 거야. 쓰지 좀 말아. 지금 괜찮아. Everybody say la 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 la, say la 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 la. Switch it up, switch it up, burn it up. 불타오르네. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. 그만 잘 여기로 이런 잘 여기로 내 추억을 들고 all night long. 생각나는 발걸음으로 뛰어봐. 미쳐버렸다. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow. 싹 다 불태워라. Wow wow wow.
Can we play a metal song? This song is so hard on my ears.
너의 따분한 그 표정, 지루한 발끝. Please look at me now. 핸드폰을 내려놔. 고개 돌릴 생각도 마. Let me know your type. 나의 골랐으면 돼. Yeah. 너의 눈에 나의 손에 놓고게. 이 자기가 비밀을 데려갈게. 완전히 새로운 세상에.
Hello, Dayla.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Or
Morning.
good afternoon, depending on which part of the world we're being
Yeah, I think the
listened to.
participants is good afternoon. They are in Indonesia.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Dayla, for being here with us.
Of course. So, should I do a little introduction? How do we start? I want to keep this as informal as possible
Yeah.
in order to facilitate questions later on, have an open discussion, however we might feel more comfortable. Okay.
The
So
MC
my
will
name is.
be
Mhm.
no, the MC will be like opening the session, and she will let you like talk and give you the floor, kind of it.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone, thank you for waiting. And for those of you who have just joined this webinar, welcome to the fourth session of Udemy Fast 2022. And let me introduce you to our second speaker, Miss Deyla Hosha. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, Dela, perfectly.
Deyla.
Thank you.
Okay, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Okay, so the presentation will be start shortly, but let me first read Dela's bio for you guys. So Dela Hosha is an Erasmus Mundus Scholar of the PADL program. She completed her bachelor studies in Albania and holds a Master of Science from University College London. Her work and academic experience are guided by her interest in child psychology, expressed through research in children's emotional development, language learning, and play. She has been working in different contexts with multicultural themes to support preschool children, refugee children, and neurodiverse children in various countries and cultures. Such an impressive profile. And so I leave you the floor. Can you please start the presentation?
Absolutely. Just give me one moment. Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So, as it was introduced, my name is Deyla. I have a background in psychology with a focus on child development, but recently I completed my master's in the Erasmus Mundus program, Play Education, Toys and Languages. It was a very dynamic master's. We conducted our studies during COVID. So we started in normal classes and then had to adapt to, let's say, flipped classrooms, do most of our classes online. And of course, this affects not only our studies, not only our life in general, which of course there's no question on it, but of course also our communication skills. And that is related to the topic that we're discussing today in the area of academia or the academic environment. There were many struggles that we came across in terms of dealing with assessment, dealing with our courses, with the lessons. We were scattered all around the world, so in order to find common grounds for both students and lecturers and make that this academic experience as successful as possible, we often had to negotiate our terms and conditions with the universities that we were studying at the time. So this presentation today is, I tried to keep it as practical as possible, talking from my own experience, seeing it both as a student but also as a professional, and to understand what can be applied directly in your communication in an academic environment. So to go with a general definition of communication, which is the one mostly let's say most adaptable for a social environment, communication comes from the Latin communis, meaning common. So when we communicate, we are trying to establish commonness with someone. That is, we are trying to share information, an idea, or an attitude. So this emphasis on the common is, in my belief, what builds great grounds for not only communication, of course, but for building relationships, for bonding, for making successful or expecting successful results in the end. So keeping always in mind this idea of we're working commonly for a result, for an idea, for a cause, and so on. And we use this means that we have been provided with, be it verbal language, non-verbal language, circumstances, environment, and so on. So in the academic context, our communication is usually related to two main groups, which is our peers and our lecturers. Of course, I'm going to focus more on the lecturers, but I cared to provide a little story or anecdote in terms of the communication with peers. So for those of you who are applying, of course, for an Erasmus Mundus Masters, you are to expect a very diverse group of students in your programs coming from all around the world, different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages. So of course, it's something to be kept in mind when you're communicating with them. It was similar in my program as well. We were 24 students from 17 different countries. Atifa, don't let me be wrong. It was 17, right?
Around that number.
Well, yeah, I have the number 17 impressed in my mind. So what I found absolutely inspiring in our daily communications in the classroom, back in the day when we were physically in the classroom, but also when we were doing our presentation and courses online, was not only this mutual respect that we had for each other, but a sense of appreciation, which showed specifically in terms of group projects. So usually you would expect when you have even personal projects, but especially group projects, there's a little bit of rivalry between different groups. And you're like, okay, we got to do really well to impress the lecturer. We have to be the best, make the most effort. And then when we would present the projects, usually our lecturers would have us evaluate each other. So each group would make a comment on the group that just presented and talk what were their strengths, what they could improve in the future, and so on. And to me, it was always so impressive coming from a background where in the classroom, you usually are competing a lot with other students. In this context, we were always so appreciative and kind. So whenever we made comments, initially you point out what you like, what the other group did very well, what the other student or your other peer did very well, what you really appreciate and congratulate about them. And then you continue with constructive criticism. For example, what they might improve in the future, what they maybe forgot to include and would add value to their presentation. So I care to point out, always keep in mind and always try your best to be, first of all, kind and then right. So starting from a place of kindness helps you build wonderful relationships and make a very pleasant environment to be studying in and to be working in with your peers. So in terms of lectures, I guess this is probably the thing that challenges most students when they start the academic journey, especially if you're going and studying in a different culture, in a different environment. You may be a bit scared or anxious of how you are going to communicate, how you're going to put forward your thoughts, if you're going to be using appropriate language or not when communicated with a figure of authority. So the main aspect, one of the main aspects influencing this communication is, of course, culture. And I have written here what we always hear when we talk about making presentations or writing an essay and so on, which is know your audience. We can make a little bit of a geographical quiz here if you guys want to participate. Who knows which flags these are? Well, I know that Tifa knows because we've been together in all of those countries. So, but yeah, I will skip that part. So it's I've included the flags of the countries that I've lived and studied in. And no, actually in Turkey, which is the last one I haven't lived in, but vicariously lived in through the experience of our peers and lecturers. So I've
Virtually.
yes, virtually. I've lived and studied in the UK, in Spain, and in Portugal. And then the last semester of our program, which was supposed to be taking place in Turkey, happened online. So we're talking about cultures that are mostly European, let's say Turkey is partly extended in Asia and partly in Europe, but in each country you find so many differences and at the same time so many similarities. But whenever I would go to a new country, the first thing that I would try to do in terms of communication with lecturers was asking my friends from that country. So getting a general idea of what authority figures like to be addressed as or like to be treated in those specific countries from a peer of your own level in your class or just a friend that you have from the culture is a great indication to use for your further communication. So in the UK, for example, what I have experienced is being a very maybe I will make a difference in terms of individualistic and more commune cultures. But in the UK, you are regarded, even as a student, you are regarded as a colleague. So there is not that much power disbalance in terms of, oh, you're the student and you should obey and you should listen to me. But it's more like, oh, we're both working in this field, so your opinion and your inputs are always valuable. But of course, you have to keep that level of politeness and respectfulness when addressing a superior of yours, especially if they have very, very big titles in their names. So you have to keep in mind that, oh, okay, maybe I should be a little bit more careful. In Spain, which is the second country that I lived and studied in, again, it seemed like this balance was kind of smudged. So there is an equal respect and regard from both parts of our lecturers and students, but from time to time it would come out that actually they really liked to be addressed and treated as authority. So as much as you would ask and get the idea that, oh, they want to be very friendly with you and they try to remove all titles and ask you to address them by name and so on, you still should be careful in the idea that not overstepping that limit or that line. In Portugal, following from Spain, it was something similar, but that there was a bit more distance between the lecturer and the student. So even if you think in terms of cultural aspects, the Spanish are very caliente, as we say, very passionate, talkative, and they want to be engaged, and they share lots of personal stories and personal happenings during the day. In Portugal, even though they share the same border and geographically they're the same, let's say, there is a difference in terms of respecting authority. I was explained once by a friend of mine from Portugal that this is also related to their background, their historical background, being a country that had a socialist regime, and people, the population was kind of obliged to obey the rules that the regime would put. So it's something that is descended from generation to generation and has been input in the collective communication that people have with each other, and this innate sense of respect for authority. Still, there is not that big of a difference in terms of, oh, you're the student and I'm the teacher, so I am always right and you are always wrong. But there is, however, this necessity to respect the title and what it represents. The last one would be Turkey. As we mentioned, didn't get to live there in person, but had the academic experience, and we were involved in the educational system, let's say. So we knew very far ahead from our peers, Turkish peers, that the relationship with lecturers would be very specific and that we had to be very careful in addressing that, because this idea of the difference in power and authority was very emphasized and had to be respected. So we went with with a previous idea of that, and it got confirmed. So the educational system in Turkey felt a bit more rigid in terms of the space that we had to make changes, to make compromises. When we were working online, sometimes the assessments didn't match the actual input of the work that the lecturers had put, or in terms of how much we had to give back, how many assessments we had at the same time. Some of them were very unrealistic. Some of them were boring, if I may allow to say so. So we tried to make, coming from a different background where in Spain and in Portugal, they always welcomed our suggestions. We thought of doing the same here, but that was not quite welcomed in the idea that, oh, we are the lecturers, we are the teachers, so we know better what the program should be like, what is best for you, so you should follow that. And it is not to say that one of the systems is better than the other, not at all. It's just to point out the differences. One system works best in these conditions, in these structures that have already been settled in the country for many years, and this system works better in another context, be it with the population of students that they have, be it with the education level or background, the cultural differences, as we mentioned. So this is just to give an idea that even though there are three countries that are the three of them in Europe, let's say, we still could find many differences, let alone when you consider moving from across the world in another country in Asia or America. I don't think there's any program of the Erasmus Mundus that has a semester in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, but still would be a great cultural difference. That's the idea. And yes, so we had to adapt every 6 months as we changed the educational system, as we changed the lecturer. We also had to change our mindset and the way we approached it, this experience with the skills and knowledge that we had. So first thing, always ask your peers if you have friends from the country or if you make friends in the country, how the situation is and how the lecturers want to be addressed in order to avoid initial confrontations. Because of course, along the way, you will get to understand them better. They will also let you know. But initially, this would be a very good step. I remember one of my friends asking me, when we were writing emails initially to our lecturers, how do we do, like, do we address them by name or do we address them by title all the time? Because when we're in person, they ask us to address them by name, but in the email, it feels a bit very informal to address them by name. And there's also always a rule of thumb, depending on how the lecturer signs their name off at the end of the email. If they sign their full name and their title, you should always address them by their last name. So Mrs. Gonzalez. If they sign their name in the end, so not full name, but just their a single forename, which is let's say Sara or Elena, then you can go ahead. It's like they've given you permission to do that. So always be mindful and pay attention to these little details. Oh, I repeat it. So when we communicate, what we are trying to keep in mind when putting forward our message should be, from my experience, I pointed out three main aspects. So the message might be of whatever type or form, but I considered it to be related to your academic experience, your lessons, something that might be related to administrative work, something that may be related to your assessment, to your tests, and so on. So we're talking about a formal message that you want to put through. The same rules or the same suggestions that I have included later on may be applied also when we're talking about informal communication. So you're talking to them in person, you're talking about plans to make travels with your peers and how you want to include your lectures as well, plans to have maybe day off or to have a communicate or a gathering online and how you're going to discuss about that. But I pointed out three main aspects, which are the message should be clear and concise. You have to decide on your form of communication, which is either oral or written, and keep in mind to be respectful but yet assertive. So what do I mean by clear and concise? I have included 5 rules suggested by George Orwell in terms of what you should include in your writing or in your general communication. So George Orwell, the author of 1984, Animal Farm, a great essayist, writer, very famous English author. And I remember that these rules were communicated to me when I started my course in the UK. So we had some academic writing classes, and one of the lecturers was like, okay, these are the 5 golden rules. Keep them in mind, take them into account. Don't worry too much. If you follow these 5, you're going to be fine. And I really liked the idea of keeping it short and simple. So the first one is this can also be applied to academic writing if you want, but we're talking about more of a personal communication style that we direct with others. So never use a metaphor or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. So anyone has any idea or suggestions why Orwell should put this first rule, never use a metaphor when you're communicating?
Yes, I think we should avoid metaphor because probably one metaphor is not quite general for all audience to understand, especially when we are in an international forum where people coming from different country with different background.
Absolutely, exactly. So it's the idea of avoiding confusion. So what you might mean by this metaphor might not be well received or understood by other people, be it your peers or your lecturers, your superiors, and so on. So trying to keep these figures of speech out of a writing context or a communication context with others will facilitate good understanding and interpretation. Never use a long word where a short one will do. So this falls under that concise aspect of this slide. So we always try to be concise. We also need to keep in mind that our lecturers most of the time are quite busy. So their attention span is always shifting from one task to the other, from one email to the other. They have so many things that they have to reply in the day, so many tasks that they need to complete. So if you can put your request in one sentence, that would be perfect. Otherwise, try your best to do it as short as possible, but being concise is key. If it is possible to cut out a word, always cut it out. So again, following to the second one, never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word, or a jargon word if you think of an everyday English equivalent. So if you think of an equivalent, use the equivalent. If you need to use the foreign phrase or the scientific word to reflect your opinion or your idea specifically, always make sure to write an explanation, a short explanation in brackets. So what do you mean by that? What are you referring to? Always in the idea to avoid this confusion. And the fifth one, in which Orwell was like, oh, okay, don't worry about the other ones. Don't worry. You can break any of those rules rather than say anything whose meaning would not be clear to an average educated reader. So if you need to follow those rules, but your message would not be still that clear, then don't mind the rules, go ahead. The focus is to make the message as clear as possible. The second one, so after we made sure that our message is clear and concise, we can decide whether we want to communicate it in person or in a written form. So I've put some advantages and disadvantages of communicating in person with your lecturers or communicating in a written style. So let's say you have a request to change the topic of your assessment, maybe get a little extension, maybe you are not very clear on what is being asked and you need further elaboration from your lecturer. And you're like, okay, I need to talk with them. I need to decide to work harder on my assessment. So you decide, okay, I'm going to talk to them in person. Today after class, I will see a little bit and ask for their opinion. So why is this good to talk in person? You get immediate feedback. So you're in front of your lecturer, you have a question about your assessment, you ask the question, you get the feedback immediately, and you can go on, continue working your library at home. You move forward immediately. There's a high level of understanding and transparency. If there's something that the lecturer doesn't quite understand in your question, you have the opportunity to explain it right away. You can see it from their verbal language, how they talk to you, or from their body language. If you don't understand something that the lecturer just said, you also have the opportunity to ask more questions. So the transparency and understanding is there, and avoids confusion, it should be, I apologize, avoids confusion or misinterpretation. So again, with the idea of being clear and concise. So what are some of the disadvantages? Especially if it's at the beginning of your course where you don't know your lecturer that well, you might feel a bit anxious and do a poor presentation of your request or of your question. You might try to find the right words, but then you get a little anxious and then your mouth is not obeying you, and then you might start blushing a little bit and you're like, oh, look at them, they're judging me right now, I'm not doing a good job, oh my God. So you get even more anxious and you don't get a response to the question and the request that you initially started and why you started this conversation. You might not feel confident enough in your language skills or appropriate cultural behavior. So how to approach them, if you should approach them after the lesson, or if you should go in their office, if you should ask for a prior appointment or just follow them around in the hallway. So it requires attentiveness and great receptivity on part of the receiver and the audience. So you also need to pay attention to what they're saying. And if you're too anxious judging the way that you're talking and how you're communicating the message, you might also forget what they're saying because you're focusing too much on the form and not on the content. So this might also be related to the fear of not remembering. So you're like, okay, I went to ask the question and they said so many things, but what did they actually say? I don't remember. Okay, so in that case, we might move on and we have the other option, which is written communication. So when we write an email, we don't send letters anymore. So when we write an email or send a message, many of us usually had WhatsApp groups, either with the lecturers of each course that we were conducting or with the supervisors of the whole program. And we would usually write our concerns, our questions, our requests, our wishes for the holidays. So the WhatsApp groups are very useful. So it's good for complicated issues when it comes to emails. You have time to structure your thoughts and your language, so you're not under that pressure that, oh, I need to think of the right word to say, I need to put this out as it should be, like make an introduction, explain it, and then make a conclusion of it. So you have time to work. No need for prior appointment. You can send the email whenever you want from the comfort of your house, of your library. So you don't have to worry if the lecturer has time, he doesn't have time, or will they feel bothered or not bothered? No, you just send the email and you just wait patiently for the feedback. And it's also very important to have written proof. So if you're talking about a somewhat serious matter, if it comes to your assessment, what you're going to be evaluated on, if you're asking for an extension, if you need clarification, it might be useful for future reference to have it in written form. Because again, as we said, our lecturers are quite busy and sometimes they might misremember some guidance or suggestion that they have given prior to us. So it's very good to have it in a written form. So it is a permanent means of communication and it's useful for future references. What are some downsides of written communication? So we should not always aim to go for written and forego the oral communication. Of course, people may not always read them, the emails or the messages, and you have late responses, whereas when you're talking in person with them, you get a response right away. So if you have an urgent matter and your lecturer takes 2 to 3 days to reply, they might not be very useful for you, so you might want to choose the other way. There's the lack of nonverbal cues, which might lead to misunderstanding. So, of course, when you communicate, we had, if I may share a little story, we had this event happened to us. We were online. We had some suggestions to make to our lecturers, and as a group of as a whole group of the program, we decided to send an email with suggestions of how to improve the teaching in the next semester, considering that we had switched to online classes. And from our previous experience, we saw what could be improved. So we're like, okay, let's help our lecturers. They're always very busy, especially with the change that has happened now. And maybe they don't have the right attention or the time to focus on these small changes. So what should we do? Okay, in a very positive way, we decided to send suggestions. Thinking that they would be very much welcomed, we were a little bit wrong because exactly because of the missing of this verbal or non-verbal cues, our message was misinterpreted. So these suggestions were taken as a criticism to their previous work rather than space for improvement or of their future work. So our lecturers thought that we were complaining about things that didn't go right in the previous semester, and they felt that we were being disrespectful, whereas our aims were completely different. So in written form, we allowed the space for misunderstanding. And when we had a meeting later online, we managed to clear these misunderstandings by talking, of course, verbal communication, but adding as well our nonverbal cues, which is your body language, the way that you stay, the way that you approach yourself, your body, the form that you're keeping your body shows whether you're being arrogant, let's say, and you're making this request from a place of arrogance, or if you're actually being very humble and saying, oh, not at all. What we meant actually was this and that and that. So we managed to level out these misunderstandings, and from both parts, that was an acknowledgement that they had exaggerated the meaning of the email that we sent with suggestions, but on the other side as well, we should have been more careful in including specific words to point out that this was a very friendly email and not one of complaints. So sharing just these personal stories that this thing happen all the time, and if you can be prepared, that is great, but if not, that's going to serve as a lesson. And maybe in the future, we do make a presentation for somebody else, like I'm doing now for you. And there's also a downside to it is less opportunity to cultivate bonding. So when you're writing an email, a formal email to ask for something, you don't have a space to make jokes, to laugh together, to share personal stories, what you did this weekend. You tried something new in the country and you really want to share it with your lecturer. And maybe a point when you're asking for clarification, you also share something personal. So in communicating in an oral form in person, this would allow you to build a stronger connection, make yourself be remembered a little bit, because you're not just one of the many hundreds of emails that the lecturer might get in a week, but you're a person who stays with them, shares personal story, and makes a good impression of yourself. Okay, some phrases that we might use when we're working, when we're sending an email or when we're communicating in person. We can say, for example, if you need further clarification for an assessment, for some dates in the future, the holidays that you need to take, for example, to plan your trips, because many of us have to go back home, have to come back, but in these times, especially during COVID, but also post-COVID, with the regulations now, the test required and so on, there is not clarity. But of course, you deserve to have that clarity to plan your own life. So you might say, for example, oh, I'm having a hard time with understanding this task. Would you please help me with this? Or I am struggling with this certain point of the lessons. I don't feel like I have enough material related to it. Could you suggest some additional links? It's always nice to be very thankful or to acknowledge the fact that they are using their time to help you. So you can point to the kindness of doing this. So would you be so kind to please clarify for me? Or would you be so kind to elaborate? What do you mean in this lessons, or to explain something more? After, for example, you've gone through your notes, you had your lesson, you paid attention in class, but now that you're going through the notes, you're like, oh, okay, this doesn't really make sense. So you want to clarify on that, and you can point that out specifically. So as I was going through my notes, I came across this, I noticed this, so on. And usually at the end of an email, if I'm asking for something or requesting something, I would always put like, I would greatly appreciate your assistance. I would be very grateful if you provide me with some time or with some suggestions. So you show that your gratitude and how you value the time that they're spending for you. A very important aspect, which is the third suggestion that I would have in terms of communication, would be the idea of assertive communication. So assertive communication is expressing your point of view in a way that is clear and direct while still respecting others. So assertive communication to me is important in the idea that we worry a little bit when it comes to this balance of power, the thing I was talking before, so the idea of authority, and you might feel that you should always be very humble and always welcome what the lecturer has decided. No worries, we had a bit of interference. So what the lecturer has decided, maybe you might feel that you are not in a place or you don't have the power to contradict that or to make a suggestion, to ask something else. But that is what you should keep in mind, the idea of assertive communication, that idea that whatever you feel like would be better for you, for your studies, for your academic journey, deserves to be heard and deserves to be expressed. And if you do it in the right way, so being respectful but still firm, then you have a chance to be fair to yourself. So always keep in mind, yes, we want to respect our figures of authority, our lecturers, they teach us, they take care of our academic schedule and so on, but my allegiance should be to myself. So my journey, my academic journey, is my greatest investment. And if I think of something to improve it, I should be able to state it. So some suggestions of how to be assertive when communicating with your lecturer. So you can use I statements. So not to say, it would be nice if we could see. This is also nice in a different context. But if you need a specific response to your request, you can put I statements and say, I think that this would be very helpful for me. I believe that this would be the best route to take. I would like to have an opportunity to express myself in this different way. So be specific about exactly what you want, but also you are making a request, not a demand. So that is that fine balance between being very respectful, but at the same time firm, but not firm enough so you sound like arrogant, but at the same time not respectful enough that your request will be dismissed. So it takes some practice to find this very nice balance and level to give space to your requests and always think that they deserve to be heard. After you make I statements, you can also use you statements to express empathy and understanding in terms of your lecturer and their decisions. So, for example, you can say, you are working very hard for us, and we see that you are putting your time and effort, but we would really appreciate if we could have a chance to further discuss this issue or this matter, or we would really appreciate if there would be a space to make changes, to make constructive changes. So you always point out the work that they've been doing and you acknowledge that and you're thankful for that. And you suggest that on top of that work, you can build something else which can still be very useful. You can facilitate further discussion by acknowledging the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it. So we understand that the assessment you planned followed the syllabus guidelines. However, we feel that the current circumstances should also be taken into consideration. So you leave space for discussion. You acknowledge what they say and you're like, absolutely, you're very right. And we're not saying that we disagree with you. We're only saying that we should add another aspect to the discussion. We should allow for space to communicate more of this or that. So to express your needs and feelings without guilt. You should feel entitled to express yourself. There is space, you should be heard, and you shouldn't be feeling guilty that, oh, maybe I'm disrespecting, oh, maybe I should, if I talk about this, it feels like I'm not appreciating their work. Not at all. If you acknowledge and value their work, but at the same time acknowledge and value your desires and your requests, then that would be the most pleasurable and successful academic experience to you. So always keep in mind to be faithful to yourself first and your needs and desires. So these were my suggestions in terms of academic communication, mostly with the lecturers. I would love if you guys have any questions and we can make, let me stop the presentation so I can see. If you can make a very friendly discussion, it's completely open. I'm let's say a recent graduate as you, so we come from the same level. I have my experience which I use, but I love to identify myself as a student all the time. So if you want to share something, a personal experience, a personal story, or if you have any questions, I would love to make it an open discussion.
Thank you very much, Taylor, for the explanation. And so we are opening the Q&A session, guys. If you have any questions, you can hit the raise hand button, or you can actually you can also write your question in the chat box below. Any question? Question. Okay, probably while waiting for our participants to prepare the question, I do actually have a question. I'm interested in your explanation about jargon and what do you think? We should avoid jargon, but when we are in the class, do you think that the use of jargon can actually impress our lecturer? Probably we can still use jargon, but we explain it clearly, so it will not cause any confusion during our presentation.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Absolutely. So that was also one of Orwell's suggestions. So if you cannot avoid to use jargon and you accompany it with a proper explanation, then absolutely. If you think that it adds value, if you think that it adds a personal touch, then it's absolutely perfect to include it. Especially in the classroom, I would notice as you go through different cultures, the lecturers would really be impressed when you use words from their language. So not necessarily jargon, but you use words that you wouldn't otherwise use in your academic context. And still you say something in Spanish, or you say something in Portuguese, you say something in Turkish, they love it. So if you make the effort to learn some words from the culture, even the basic ones, how to say thank you, good morning, have a good day, and so on, it adds value, it adds character, and the jargon absolutely, when accompanied by specific explanation, which makes it clear for everyone who is listening to the presentation, would give a very like spicy touch.
Thank you so much for the answer.
Absolutely.
And we still have time for another question. So guys, do not hesitate.
I have a question for them. Has anyone ever experienced a situation of misunderstanding with one of their teachers or one of their lecturers, be it in high school or your bachelor studies? It would be very interesting to hear.
Anyone want to share their experience?
They're all shy.
Hi, Delia. Dela.
Hi.
So I would just want to share a short experience that I have between for communications. Well, actually, it is about like related to politics. So, so I work with Vietnam clients, and actually they have a tension with China. So related to the I mean, like sovereignty with island in South China Sea. So I don't know about that situation. So like a stupid people, I said Happy Chinese New Year to them, and then and then uh, they get irritated, and they said that please do not say Happy Chinese New Year, because we have our New Year here. We just say
Right.
Vietnam, yeah. So from that moment, I just okay. So I should be more aware about not just about their culture, but also current situation like politics or etc. So that makes me realize with that.
Yes. Oh, that is such a typical example. Thank you so much for sharing it. I would also experience that in our studies in Spain with the conflict with Catalonia. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, but Catalonia is this region that always asks for independence. And whenever we had lessons with our teachers and Catalonia came in the conversation, they would be so fierce and so passionate to talk about how bad Catalonia was, and they wanted to be independent, and how good the mainland Spain was, and so on. So that was very surprising to me. But at the same time, a way to approach this, I understood, is because you cannot keep up with all the events that go on in the world. As much as you try to read the news, to do this and that, it's impossible to keep up with all the good things and the bad things, all the conflicts and all the celebrations. So one way, if you find yourself in this situation, is to always approach it with curiosity. So in the case, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Tri? In the
Yes,
case,
correct.
okay, thank you. In the case, in your case, Tri, maybe it would have been very useful to say, for example, oh, I'm so sorry if I disrespected you. Can you tell me a little bit more? I really want to understand the situation. So, what is going on between Vietnam and China? And then you give an opportunity to seem very interested and not judgmental. And also, people love to talk about themselves or their countries. So if you give them opportunity, they're going to start talking and give you all the details. And so it's a win-win situation. You painted yourself as a person who, acknowledges when I said something that was not appropriate, but I am willing to fix it and to mend it by listening to you. So yeah, absolutely. It happened to us so many times. But I think the key is curiosity. If you paint yourself to be very curious, then you will just dismiss all the little misunderstandings that come your way.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nice suggestion.
Thank you for sharing.
Is there
Okay.
another question?
No, they never had any conflict apparently. Amazing relationships with their lecturers. So impressive.
It's not like we don't have conflicts, but actually, in parts of cultural attributes, probably Indonesians, we tend to avoid conflicts and we tend to keep it to ourselves until we forget the problems after that.
I love it. So would you like to explain? I'm being curious now and asking this, how's the position of authority of the lecturers in Indonesia? I think it's very much respected, right? And not challenged?
No challenge. I think that there is a high distance, or not high distance, but we are quite distant actually with our lecturers, especially when it comes to academic environment. I finished my first degree, and yeah, the environment is just like that. It's not friendly at all, except if we can really build the relationship outside the classroom with the lecturers, then yeah, probably we will have more courage to challenge them. I remember once my friend, she didn't agree with the lecturer, and my lecturer didn't really responded quite well, because probably they were not prepared with such a reaction, because that's not how the culture is.
But do you feel that if you make requests or if you point out something that you would like to be improved or changed, do you think that the lecturer would come back in a vindicative way and maybe affect your grade, or be very specific in the way that they evaluate you and so on? Do you think that that would be the case or no?
Fortunately, they will not it will not affect our final grades in the end. But later on, one of my lecturer told my friend who was having that problem at the time, it's just the way that we should address to our lecturers. Like we have to, like you have just explained before, we have to first show our appreciation to what our lecturers are sharing, and then we can spotlight something that is probably other opinions which are not really how to say it,
In agreement with
theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. In my bachelor studies, when I studied back home in Albania, actually we had this fear that if we pointed out things, the lecturer would take them personally and would show that that would be reflected in our grade. And in some instances it did happen, but this is a reflection, of course, of the lack of professionality of the lecturer. And then you have other instances where you can report this and feel that your voice would be heard. But the idea of the difference between levels is absolutely very relevant, and it exists there.
And actually, a little bit a disclaimer, it's not that all lecturers in Indonesia are like that. I think there are also lecturers from other faculty in the same in my university who are open and who are ready to share their knowledge and also be prepared with challenge by their students.
Absolutely. You think there's an age factor there as well? Like older professors or lecturers are a bit more rigid and follow some guidelines and rules of previous methods of teaching, whereas the new ones are more open to that?
Yes, absolutely. I think the edge is always, it can be also a factor because most of lecturers in Indonesia, they are already like seniors, and so the way we communicate with them certainly will be different with the new lecturers, young lecturers who are more open, and also they want to throw themselves to the crowd, like they how to say that they are more open to join and to feel like they are equal with their students in the classroom.
Absolutely. But then with the more senior lectures, you have all their expertise and contribution. So we definitely feel like their knowledge puts this authority that intimidates us, and we're like, oh, you're so knowledgeable that I will just listen to you and say nothing. So yeah. But we had I don't know if Tifa remembers, especially when we started in Spain, but even in Portugal later on, our lecturers were so impressed that we spoke up and that we had questions and we had suggestions, because the other students, so Spanish students or Portuguese students, were more quiet and just go in the lecture, go out, do your assignments. There's not much communication in terms of making new amendments or introducing something different. So they were always, wow, these international students are so special. They are so smart. They are so talkative. They want to express themselves. So I want to encourage you guys, hopefully when you get your scholarships and your programs, always know that your inputs will be if presented in the right way, absolutely, will be valued and will be appreciated. And sometimes for the lectures, it's nice not to do just a passive presentation, so it's like they're talking to themselves and they talk, they have no feedback from the class. But if it's very dynamic and there's communication, there's questions, responses, and so on, it makes the lecturers as well feel heard and valued. So always try to put the shyness away, make a challenge to yourself and be like, okay, I will ask a question or I will make a suggestion. And I guarantee you that they're going to be so impressed and they're going to remember your face and your name, which is very important for you guys.
That's totally correct. I mean, like when you ask questions, like that's actually your chance to grow, like the curiosity, like they last say. And there is
Absolutely.
nothing like wrong or right. Like you miss your chance if you just silent. Like that's what our minds say. Like when we were in college, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
now,
Always keep that in mind too. I need to do this for myself. Like I owe this to myself. I should be faithful to my thoughts and to my desires and do this for yourself. Like, okay, there's going to be a little bit of shyness at the beginning, but yeah, for yourself. Think of it. Put yourself first, always. We have a question in the chat. Should I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
This is
It's
question
from Saida or Sida? Help me, guys.
Shida.
Shida, okay. So Shida asks, do you have tips and tricks how to be assertive during the presentation? As for me, I want to be assertive, but I end up sounding uncertain to what I say. By the way, sorry, I can't open the microphone. No worries at all. So yeah, the suggestion is assertiveness takes practice. So it will not happen. You will not read a couple of suggestions and be like, okay, I know, now I'll keep them in mind. I will go make my presentation. Yes, that's a bit more difficult. If I would have some very specific suggestions, it would be make a list of words that you're going to use. No matter how, like you know that they're going to come up, especially if you're doing a presentation, there's some specific words which make you sound very well spoken. And with one word, you can present a general idea. So you don't have to put so many words. Trying to be, again, concise is very helpful in making your message be heard and not sounding like, oh, very noisy. Oh, what is she trying to say? Oh, she is using so many words and people just lose the focus and the attention. So make a list of words. Let's say put 30 words. And every week you focus on 10. And for example, it's words such as evaluate, in conclusion, like make for all of the parts of your presentation. So you're doing the introduction, have some words that you know that eventually you're going to use for the introduction and they sound really nice and you want to use them to sound more assertive and to sound more professional. Then you have the body of the presentation. What are you using that? So we evaluated, we examined, we investigated. We came across this. Of course, this depends on the different programs and topics that you guys will choose. But usually if you're reporting a research article or a research project, which I think all of you would come at some point, you can say based on previous experience, noticing the trend, and so on, and then have the specific words that you're going to use for the conclusion. So as we said, in conclusion, we came to the understanding that we, after further investigation, we reached an agreement of this and that. So making little preparations beforehand by having a list of words. If you feel confident on what you're speaking and prepared for that, it's going to show in your body language as well. So you will, stay up straight with your head high. Whereas if you're feeling very insecure, you will crouch a little bit. You will not look your audience in the eye. You will not look your teacher. There are these little things that, of course, show more assertiveness. Now that I remember, of course, in the body language, if you try to practice in front of the mirror or with your friends, that's very good. The idea of keeping eye contact makes you seem very confident. Absolutely. So you can look at your friend or you can look at your teacher. Try to mind of course, your posture. Your hand gestures. Sometimes when I'm nervous, I'm always doing this. And I know that from the point of view of the audience, that doesn't look really good. You don't seem very confident in what you're saying, and you're just trying to push through and push through. So try to hold your hands together like this and be like, okay, I got this. So if you want to make small steps, start with having a list of words and practicing the control of your body language in front of a mirror or in front of your friends. And then you start with the small presentations. It's completely fine. With the first ones, you're going to blush. Your mouth is not going to run and your words are not going to come sliding. But it's good experience. And without experience, we cannot really make it. Yeah, I don't know if Tifa remembers me blushing at any time, but I surely did when we made the presentations. So it's completely fine. Always keep in mind that you're a student. So you're there to learn and you're not there to be the final product. No, you're a product in the making. So if you go with that mindset, you're like, okay, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm allowed to improve. And that's it. I hope, Shida, that was a bit helpful. Otherwise, write again. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Deila, for sharing with us today. Thank you for coming and sharing in our webinar today. And I want to remind all the participants to fill out the form to mark your presence today by clicking the link in the chat below that our team has sent. And now we will have a photo session before we end this event. So we invite you, all the participants, to open your camera and our team will take a few screenshots.
Yeah, we can open the camera. It's the last session.
Oh, maybe they're in bed sleeping right now.
Yeah, it's like afternoon in Indonesia. Maybe they have.
Oh, it's afternoon. Okay, that's good.
Siesta. No.
Siesta.
You don't have siesta there.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
we're waiting for a second, maybe. So Dela, are you in Lisbon or are you at
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes, right now I'm in Lisbon. We finished our degree here, and Tifa and I stayed because we
Yeah,
love the weather,
having
we love
fun.
the food.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can start.
Let me count down.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, say cheese. Okay, 30 seconds left. One more. Take, okay. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, everyone,
I
this
can hear
photo
the
session
shot.
marks the end of our webinar today. Many thanks to all of you who have attended our session, today's session. We hope that this session can be useful. And don't forget, we still have more sessions until 19 March. You can check our Instagram to see the detailed schedule for the next session, or you can check on our newly launched website, Udemy.id, where the recorded version of this webinar will be available. And also you can check the past and upcoming events on our website. So guys, I am Mutia. Thank you so much for your attention. See you next week.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Wish you all the
Dela.
best in your application.
Thank you so much, Dela.
Bye-bye. Pleasure.